to come in first and then do our intro? Or
It's recording, so yes.
okay. We so shy. Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to Conchordium and OppOrg's first collaborative event. We are so excited to bring you Propel, a series of webinars covering everything about life after high school, from post-secondary academics to your career to basically your life as a student. To kick off the 3-day event, we're starting with business.
Yes. So today we have amazing speakers to share their experiences with you. Chen from Ivey Business School, Mahek Shah from Schulich School of Business, and Angelina Tang from Queen Smith School of Business. So now we're going to start off with Nick.
Hey guys, I'm Nick. My PowerPoint's not really working very well, so bear with me for the next couple minutes. But my name is Nick. I am actually from Markham. And I did my first 2 years of business school at the Dan Management School program at Western. And I'm really just here to talk to you guys about Ivey. Like, it's such a cool name, but what is Ivey? It's a great question that I asked myself in first year, second year, and currently still asking myself, but I'm gonna try to explain my best to you guys. So kind of the culture at Ivey is where I like to start. Once you get into the program in third year, so it's a 2+2 program. I encourage you guys to take a look into that when you guys get the opportunity. But you're put into a section of 76 people. And what this means is you are living, eating, sleeping, breathing, and doing absolutely everything with them. You do all your cases, you spend 8 to 1 p.m. every single day with them. And you really build this culture around just playing hard and like working harder. So everyone's friendly, everyone's caring, and I kind of screwed that up, but work hard, play harder. And it's just one of the environments where you like to see everyone succeed. My next slide is how to really get into Ivey. It's a great question. Again, I didn't get Ivey, but now that I am on the other side, I can tell you guys how to get into Ivey. It's really interesting. But the way you do it is simple. It's something called CARL, and it took me a couple of years to figure this out, but you start with context. So what did you do? What was the context in which you were put in? You kind of want to give a background information of like, what does your organization do? What was your role? And then you kind of talk about action. Like, what was the problem that you were trying to solve? And then how did you solve that problem? Specifically you, not as a group, not as like an organization, but what did you do to actually bring and solve that problem? And then you talk about the result. So did you end up solving the problem? If so, what was the result? Like, did you see an increase in XYZ? Did you see a decrease in XYZ? You talk a little bit about that, and you want to make sure that this entire process is one that reads well. So you want to get as many eyes on it and make sure that there's no grammar errors or any of one of those. And finally, something that I like to add and some people don't like to add, I don't really know, it's something that I want to give you guys the option, is what did you learn from the opportunity? What did you figure out? Did you learn that like leadership was harder? Did you learn that leadership was easy? What did you learn about from this entire experience? So kind of like the acronym that I like to use is CARL. I think it's pretty easy to remember, not gonna lie. But apart from that, I think that's just the structure that you want to make sure that you're putting in all your 3 activities in, and even if you can put your other stuff, like your activities in, like just like bullet points. So I kind of want to take a look into what to highlight in your application. There's 5 major things that they want you to highlight, which is the 3rd to 7th, 8th point, whatever it is. It's teamwork, initiative, achievement, commitment, and breadth. One that I struggled with was breadth. What does breadth mean? It's just essentially just saying that you have a wide diversity of experiences. Not all of your experiences are in one bucket, whether that be sciences, sports, business, entrepreneurship, whatever. You want to make sure that you're a well-rounded individual. The link that I put below is the HBA brochure. So on that slide, you'll see 5 leadership dimensions in a way. So it's like taking actions, setting priorities. You want to make sure that kind of the way that I approached it was every single one of your activities highlighted a specific point. So say I was a ski instructor. I wanted to highlight my achievement in skiing instructors. I don't know, being a ski instructor. And you want to make sure that when your friend reads it, when your mother reads it, when your father reads it, that they understand the same thing that you try to write. So if I tried to write that I was working really well with my friend over there, you want to make sure that they're getting the same message, that you're trying to highlight your teamwork. And that's just something that like a key insight into writing the application is make sure that people understand what you're trying to bring across, which I think is really important. Give me one sec. My next slide is about reminders. So like just basic reminders for any single application. Well, more specifically for Ivey, but grades and activities really do matter. I've been told by the admissions that they've rejected like 500 applicants who had a 98 average and above. Like, make sure that you're not just focusing on your grades, but have those extracurricular activities, whether that be entrepreneurship or volunteer or, I don't know, joining your local church or sports team or whatever it may be. Make sure that it's 50% of your application and know that. And you really want to highlight who you are. Just because your friend is writing this pretty little message about how awesome he did in a certain club, make sure that you know who you are and highlight that. Because at the end of the day, if you're just trying to be who you think you want to be, so is another 1,000 applicants. And you're not going to stand out compared to any of them who have a 97, 98, 99, 100 average, right? So you want to make sure that you're being yourself and you're unique. And then make sure that you put your activities down before, and you make sure that your supervisors or whoever your reference is actually takes a look at what you wrote before you submit it. And the reason being is, I think the reason why I didn't get AEO is because one of my references actually didn't agree with what I put on there. So what I want to tell you guys is make sure that you guys tell your reference what you guys put on, send it to them like a week or 2 weeks before the application is due, and make sure that you're not missing anything or you're not exaggerating anything that they're not comfortable with accepting or like letting you write. So something like that is really important, because if there's any dings against you, you're pretty much out of the process, unfortunately. So for any application, I just wanted to touch on just like how to write an application. I don't think it's necessarily hard, but it is a skill. And you want to make sure that grammar and proofread, you want to make sure there's no grammar errors, because I had a lot of grammar errors in mine, and I think that's probably another reason why I didn't get in. Make sure that your sentences make sense. There's no like 4-line sentences that are going on. There's no, it's not very choppy. So you want to make sure everything flows really well. It reads like a story and not like a academic essay, because you want to make sure that you're highlighting who you are. And at the end of the day, I think one of the most important things, and a lot of people who don't enjoy the program that they come to, is because they came for the wrong reasons. They came for the fact that like prestige, or the fact that they think that Ivey is such a sexy school versus like Queen's Commerce, which is kind of even better, or whatever. Like, you want to make sure that you find a school that you enjoy personally, because at the end of the day, every one of your friends, not every one of your friends after graduation, but a lot of your friends from graduation, after graduation, and a lot of your kind of opportunities do come from university. So you want to make sure that you're making a decision that you are comfortable with, not to satisfy any one of your friends or anyone else. And at the end of the day, reevaluate why you're going to these schools. Make sure that all these schools are properly done. Yeah, and that's kind of who I am and what I do. If you guys have any questions or want to email me, if you give me a sec here, I'll be able to show it with you guys. My email is pretty simple: first name dot last name. First initial of my first name, last name dot hba2020@ivey.ca. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stay for your question and answering section. I have an interview in 5 minutes. But I would be more than happy to get you guys over to Ivey if you guys have any questions. And something that's really cool about Ivey is if you guys are in grade 12, you guys can email the program and actually sit in on a case-based class. And it's really hard to describe to you what a case-based is until you sit on it. But essentially what it is they give you a real life situation. And then after giving you the real life situation, you are expected to just talk about it and discuss with it with your class in your section. It generates really interesting discussions that I really enjoy and kind of feeds into the 2+2 program. But apart from that, that's all I had. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation.
All right, thank you, Nick. That was a really great presentation. Now we're going to move on to Mahek.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see my screen all right. So my name is Mahek, and I'm currently a first-year BBA student at the Schulich School of Business. So I'm going to be talking to you about the application process, what makes Schulich unique, and just how you can make the best at your 4 years at Schulich. So the Schulich snapshot. So our incoming class average is about low 90s average, but we say that to be competitive, you need about high 80s to a low 90s average, and we approximately intake 425 students each year. Our male to female ratio is 1-to-1, which means that we have a very balanced program structure. And we also pride ourselves in having the lowest tuition out of all of the business schools. And our tuition is only $10K, which is really good, especially since Schulich is a pretty new school opposed to a lot of other schools. And what's really unique about Schulich, or what I really think is really important to Schulich's culture, is small class sizes. The max amount of students that you'll have in a class is 55, which, if you think about it, is really, really small. And you get to have that interaction with your professors and all of your colleagues whenever you go to class. Another thing that Schulich is really prides itself on is its exchange program, and we have 63 exchange partners across 30 countries. So whichever type of business school you want to go to in your 3rd and 4th year, you can choose to do a semester of exchange. And we also have 10 different specializations. So whichever type of business you want to go into, there's definitely a specialization for you. So Schulich offers 2 different programs, the BBA and the IBBA. So the BBA is the Bachelor of Business Administration, and what is unique about the BBA is that you get a lot of choice, opposed to the IBBA, which is the International Bachelor's of Business Administration. So the BBA gives you a more general perspective on business, and the IBBA gives you a more international perspective. So what the difference between the 2 programs are that for IBBA, you're required to go on exchange in your 3rd in order to graduate from the program. Whereas for BBAs, you are given the choice of if you want to go on exchange or not. You just have to apply separately. Another major difference is that IBBAs are required to do a language component for their program, and they're required to be at an advanced level of whichever language they choose in 1st year, and they'll be at an advanced level in 4th year. And one other key difference is that IBBAs have to take regionally focused courses. So what are regionally focused courses? It is really to help you make the most out of your time on exchange. So it is, you get to learn about the culture to support your language credit that you're already doing. And you learn a lot more about the world, except for just like really, really being encapsulated in business. As I said before, you can specialize in 2 areas, and Schulich offers 10 different specializations. So you can start specializing in 3rd year after you have 2 years of business experience and education to support your specialization. So from accounting to economics to strategic management and from responsible business, like we have it all. So whichever specialization you're looking into, you can definitely do it at Schulich. We also have something really unique, which is called the Certificate in International Management. It is geared towards IBBA students. However, this is also a way for BBA students to get that international perspective into their degree. And it's kind of designed to give all graduates a competitive advantage in seeking job opportunities, as it is giving you a more internationally focused perspective on business. As I said before, you can study abroad for Schulich, which is a really cool opportunity and a really good way to differentiate yourself when you're trying to apply for that job, or just to give you a really cool experience. I've talked to a lot of people about their experiences on exchange, and I think it is the best experience you'll have in your undergraduate, like during your program. And I've heard that they've learned so much from just going on exchange, and they've got to apply all of their business skills just in that 1 semester abroad. So which I think is a really cool opportunity. Okay, so let's get into the application process. So the admission requirements to apply for Schulich, you need to take English and then 2 maths. So you can take either advanced functions, calculus, or data, and you have to have 2 of them.
you have to have a minimum of 70% in the required courses, and you need to have a high 80s to low 90s average to be competitive for the program. So its application is split up into two parts. There's a leadership profile and there's a video interview, which has the timed writing exercise and then the actual interview. So leadership profile is kind of similar to what Nick said about Ivey's application process, but however, Schulich is kind of limited to having 5 different activities in your leadership profile. So you want to really emphasize the activities in which you learned the most and in which you did the most. So you'll have a section where you have to give a reference and the time that you were engaged in this activity, and you need to have a short description. But it's a very short description, so you need to ensure that what you're writing is really emphasizing what you did and what you learned. It's really important. I've had a lot of people who didn't get into the program, and then I looked at their supplementary, and it was just like they just had a bunch of random facts about the actual thing that they were doing, but not what they did. It was just like if they were volunteering for a youth organization, they just said what the organization was doing or how large the organization is. They didn't really emphasize what they were doing, which is really important. Then the video interview, a lot of people feel really nervous about the video interview. Personally, I thought it was actually a really good way to show what kind of person I am, and the purpose of the video interview is just to learn more about you and whether you fit with the culture of Schulich and just to see what kind of person you are. So I would say be genuine, be honest, and be candid with your answers. You don't really need to stress about the interview. It's only 3 questions. So the first one is already given to you. It's why you want to study at the Schulich School of Business. And then the other 2 questions are really general interview questions. If I remember my questions, I think it was, who is my role model? And if I was given $20 million in the lottery, what would I do with that money? So you can see like they're really general questions. So the way that you answer it or what you say is not really important. It's more about just how you answer it. If you answer with confidence and if you can justify your reasons for your answer, you should be fine. And then lastly, it's a timed writing exercise. So I think you have about 1 minute to write a really short like paragraph on a topic. So I think mine was like the influence of social media on our lives, something like that. So a really general kind of question, which shouldn't take you that much time to complete. Then the application deadlines. So the OUAC application, hopefully you've all already filled that out, is due on January 16th. And then the supplementary application is due on January 30th. And I think it's out now, so you guys can start. You should start working on it early, so you can get everybody, like you can get your parents or your friends, whoever you want to edit it and to actually read it over. I think one of my mistakes was that I never got anyone to edit my application. I just sent it in. Yeah, but get someone to edit it. I think it's really important, and ensure that, like again, Nick said, he make sure that your references know that you're referencing them, because sometimes you think that you've done more than what you've actually done, and it's really important for what you write is verifiable and that you're being honest with your answers, because again, if you don't want to be put in that spot that your reference doesn't actually accept what you've written in your application. Then another really big thing about Schulich is its student life, which I think is such an important part of your undergraduate experience. So Schulich has a lot of clubs. So the first thing there's, which I'm actually involved in my first year, is the Undergraduate Business Society, which is essentially the student council for Schulich. So I'm like the first year rep for my program. And then I think there's 40 to 45 different business clubs at Schulich, and you can get involved with them just in first year. There's one for entrepreneurship, for sales, for marketing, for CSR, which is corporate social responsibility. There's literally a club for anything and everything. So it's really important, and it's a really great way to just enhance your business skills and network obviously with other business professionals. And then there's also a lot of case competitions that Schulich offers. I didn't think personally I'd get involved so quickly, but I've already attended like 3 different conferences and I've done 2 different case competitions. So it's and there's also a program which trains you to do these case competitions, which is called the IBBA and BBA case competition preparation program. So they really want you to make the most out of your extracurriculars as well, and they give you the resources to support you in that. And if you need to learn more about the undergraduate experience at Schulich, this is the link for our view book. It gives you a lot more information, like detailed information on what you can do every year, all the courses you can take, and like more into the specializations, how to go on exchange, stuff like that. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. My email is right there. So if you guys have more questions after this webinar, you can ask me that afterwards.
All right, thank you so much, Mahek. Now we're moving on to some questions. So I'm not sure, Mahek, do you still have your the live questions available?
Yeah, 1 second. I'll open it up.
Okay, that's cool.
How's the racial ethnic diversity? Is that the question that you're talking about? Hello?
Yep. Any of the questions that you see.
Okay, so I'll say that there's a lot of different people at Schulich. Like some people say that it's like really like concentrated of like one different culture, one specific culture, but I don't really think it's that. Like I've met a lot of really diverse people here at Schulich, and like I've only been here for like 4 months, so I think we're really diverse in that sense. Then another question. Can you go on exchange with just your BBA? Yes, you can. There is this like misconception that you can't go on exchange, but you definitely can go on exchange with your BBA degree. All you have to do is that you have to submit an external application in your 3rd or 4th year whenever you want to go on exchange. And it's a really simple application. It's just that IBBAs are required to go on exchange, whereas we're not required to go on exchange. It's like more of a choice. What kinds of people should you get to edit? I think you can get anyone to edit. Like, it doesn't matter. It can be your friend, it can be your parents, like anyone you should get to edit. I can edit your application if you want. Just send me an email. I'd be happy to edit, but it's just mainly to see that the message that you're trying to get across, like it's getting across effectively, and that like people aren't confused about what you did. And again, grammatical errors and things like that, just the small things that you might not be able to pick up on. And sometimes people doing that because they may be applying for the same program. Well, you can get some upper years if you know any people already in that program, or just anyone in university. They'd be happy to edit your application. And then your parents are obviously not competing with you, so get them to edit it. I'm pretty sure they'd be happy to do that. Which activities are going to stand out the most? How do you differentiate? Well, even if there are a lot of general activities that people do, like I think almost everybody who applies to business schools say that they've done DECA. But what you learned from DECA might be very different than what your peer learned from DECA. So it's really different. What you can differentiate is what you learned instead of like what you just did, like, oh, I placed like 3rd place at provincials or whatever. You don't have to say it like that. You can say that as a measurable kind of way to represent what you did, but then it's more important like what you learned from it afterwards. So that's how you can differentiate. And is it competitive to go on exchange if you're not in the IBBA program? It's not really that competitive. Like if you really want to go on exchange, you should be able to do that. And if there's like Schulich also has a CDC, which is a career development center. So I've heard some people haven't really gotten the opportunity to go on exchange, but then they do help you get different opportunities where you can go abroad and stuff like that. So if you don't get exchange, they can still partner you up with the schools that they're already connected to. So it's not that difficult. I think you should be fine. I think that's all of the questions on the live chat.
All right, thank you so much, Mahek. Now we're going to be moving on to Angelina.
Okay, cool. Hey guys. So I'm Angelina. I currently go to Queen's Commerce, and I'm originally from Toronto. That's just a little slide about me. So what's life like at Queen's? Well, one thing that really actually drew me to the program was the class size. So I know Mahek mentioned that Schulich had 40 people in their classes, and that's extremely small and awesome. Queens actually has 80, which I still consider to be a pretty small class. One thing that I really liked about the program is that a lot of assignments are group-based, they're team-based, which I think mimics real life a lot, since you're not going to always be working by yourself when you're working in a large corporation or anywhere really. Every year they generally accept around 475 students. This year I believe they accepted 506 just because it was a lot more competitive. The acceptance rate, and please don't let this deter you from applying because it's just really a statistic. The acceptance rate is, I believe, around 5 or 6%. However, just put your best foot forward, and I'm sure that all of you will do super well. And another thing that I really like about the program is the strong alumni network that it has, because everyone who's at the school is very proud to be at the school. And the Smith School of Business is such a tight-knit community, and everyone is so friendly towards each other, and the competitive environment that you would expect is just not there at all, which is something that I really loved.
Sorry to interrupt really quickly. Angelina, are you sharing your screen with your presentation, or are you planning on doing it?
I thought I was. Just give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Oh no. Okay, let's see. Sorry, guys. Is it working?
Angelina, would you like to just try to
Hop off of call and hop back on? I think
Sure. Yeah.
We can just...
Sorry everyone for the technical difficulties. If you have any more questions, feel free to just add it into live chat, and we'll make sure to answer them at the end of the webinar as well.
Okay. Hey guys. Sorry about that. Let's try.
Do you want to try sharing your screen right now?
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it works. Perfect.
Okay, cool. I thought I was sharing it earlier. Okay, so yeah, so I guess back to where I was. Another thing that I really liked about the school was how many ways there were to get involved. So we have 33 committees just within the commerce program. There are over hundreds within Queen's University. We host a bunch of conferences that specialize on a bunch of different topics, such as marketing or consulting or investment banking, or even general conferences if you're not exactly sure what you want to go into. And we also have case competitions and debating competitions and things like that. So daily, weekly life for me is kind of, I have 15 hours of classes per week. I roughly do around an hour of work for each class every day. So that's 15 hours of homework. And on top of that, we also have group meetings and just group studying. And I would say that weekly, I probably do around 3 hours of work for the clubs I'm involved in. If you want to know more about what clubs I'm involved in, I guess you can ask me later and I'll feel free, I'll definitely answer those. So yeah, I just typed up a bunch of courses that I take. One thing that I really like about Queen's is that you're with the same group of people for each semester. So currently in my first semester, I'm with the same 80 people, and we do a bunch of group projects together, and you really get to know and build connections with these 80 people, which I think is wonderful. The same thing happens the second semester, where I'm put into a group of 80 different people, and it works that way every single semester. These are a list of courses in first and second year. In third year, that's where it's a little different. In third year, on one of the semesters, you can choose to go on exchange. So Queen's Commerce actually has one of the largest exchange programs. We have over 100 different schools that we partner with in 35 different countries. And one really cool thing about it, it's that it's pass-fail. So you don't really end up getting a mark. You either get told that you passed your semester or you failed, which is really nice for people who want to go abroad and experience the culture instead of having to stay in their dorm all day and studying. And then in fourth year, it's kind of really broad. You get to specialize in whatever topics you want. And yeah, so admissions. One thing that I think really that Queens really emphasizes its holistic application process. So when Queens tells you that 87% is their cutoff average and that everyone who has an average of above 87% is considered equally, trust them. They really do mean that. I personally in grade 12 did not believe that. I thought I needed that like 98 average to get in. I definitely did not end up having a 98 average. And I still got in. So it's really not about your mark. They want to see that you have the ability to get to those marks, but it's not really heavily emphasized on the marks. So what is it emphasized on? It's emphasized really on your essays and your experiences. So one of the questions earlier were, how do you differentiate yourself? And what I believe that would be is tell them about a life experience that is unique to you. Tell them about something that you're passionate about. So I know a lot of my friends wrote about DECA or wrote about their involvement with like different clubs within their school with things that they thought could tie themselves to business, and that's what they put in their application. But for me, I just decided that I would talk about something that would show my dedication for something and my passion for something. So I personally talked about dance for the life experience section of my essay. And then I had been involved with a nonprofit in my grade 12th year, so I also talked about that. And I just really focused on showing that I have been committed to something in the past and that I really want to get involved and be committed to different things at Queens. And I always tried to find a way to connect my experiences to how I would be like an addition to the program, how I could contribute to the program. And I know the admissions office at Queens really likes to hear about that. And this is just kind of an emphasis. I know it's cheesy, but really for your PSEs, just try to talk about yourself in the most authentic way as possible. Really try to show them what you're like and what your interests are, and trust that that'll be enough to get you into the program. So that's kind of just my presentation. Sorry if I talked a little fast there, but if you have any questions, feel free to message me on anything. And even if you want me to like read over your apps and everything, I'd be happy to. And yeah, I can definitely answer any questions that might exist.
All right, Angelina, so I think we can start questions up again from the live chat.
Okay, for sure. Let me just find where that starts.
Yes, I think it starts with Iris's comment or question about how modern or up-to-date the technology is at the lectures.
Okay, for sure. So I would say that Queens is actually super up-to-date. They did a revamp a few years ago. So all of the classrooms have 2 projectors on each side. So you'll never have to worry about like not being able to see the board or anything. The teacher always has a like podium with a desktop at the front, and that's also where you do all of your presentations. And in front of that, you'll see a little screen for you when you present, which I've found is super helpful. All of our kind of study rooms, we call them breakout rooms. They're essentially where you have a lot of group meetings. They all have monitors that connect to whatever laptop you have. They have adapters there as well. So I would say that it's definitely an upgrade from the high school I went to. Let me find the next question. So why did you choose Queens over, let's say, UofT or Western? Okay. So a lot of people actually are shocked when I tell them this, but I never applied to Western. For me, I was interested in either political science programs or business. Queens Commerce was definitely my top choice, but I also did end up applying to UofT Rotman just because it's such like an established program, and my parents also really did want me to apply there. So I only applied to those 2, and the reason I chose Queens over UofT was probably because of A, the small class sizes, B, I absolutely fell in love with the campus when I went to the fall preview open house. I've always found that UofT has this, like it has a more competitive environment, and that's a great thing because it does motivate you to do more. But I found that at Queens, it's extremely supportive. All of the students within the program are really a family, as as lame and cliche as that sounds, we definitely support each other through like tough times. We stay up until like 3 a.m. together grinding out accounting projects, and it's always really fun here. Do you think Q lead gives you a higher chance of being accepted? See, I love this question because I actually did not get into Q lead, and my friend who did actually ended up not getting into Queen's Commerce. So I would definitely say that Q lead doesn't have an effect on your like application unless you can show that like you've been one of the delegates for multiple years and show your commitment, and you can talk about that as part of your application. But the admissions office is not going to know that you did Q lead unless you tell them. So I wouldn't say that that gives you a higher chance, but I think that the experience that you get from Q lead does give you a better understanding of Queen's Commerce, and that might help your chances. JEC, yes, I was part of the Junior Economic Club of Toronto last year. I was the Chief Communications Officer, and that's actually also one of the things that I wrote about in my PSE. And what do you say to people that characterize Western as the party school and Queen's as the formal and professional school? I've never heard of Queen's being characterized as a professional school. I will let you know that on a recent BlogTO post, it said that Queen's ranked higher than Western in partying. So I'm not too sure how to answer that. What I will say is that you will find a group of people that you enjoy being with and that you enjoy learning with, regardless of wherever you go. One thing that I was worried about coming to Queen's was that I knew it had a reputation of being like a party school. And I personally wasn't super like into it as much as some others might be. And when I got here, I found that like you're always going to find people that you connect with. So, and I'm sure that the same goes for Western because I have friends that are going there who absolutely love it. And yeah, I think that's all of the questions.
All right, thank you so much, Angelina. So I think that concludes the live chat questions. So now we're actually going to start answering some of the questions that people sent in on the Google form that we sent out. So we're going to start with Mahek, and she has the doc ready to go.
Okay, so do you want me to just pick and choose which questions to answer?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I'll see. Okay, a general question. What extracurriculars and volunteer activities did you participate in high school? How do they compare to what you're doing now in university? Okay, so when I was in grade 11 and grade 12, I got really involved in just everything that I could. Like I was doing I was trying to balance like my passions with what I actually wanted to do. So I was doing DECA, I was doing like I dance outside of school and inside of school, so I was doing that. I was volunteering at a hospital. I was president of a cultural club at my school. I was also part of like my like TDSB super council, so I was helping out with that. And I was also a part of a youth organization called the FCSS FESC, and I helped them out with that. I was an ambassador for that. So what I'll say is that it doesn't, like, I thought that I had to be involved in everything when I was in high school. I was like, okay, I have to do this and this and this. And I kind of like overloaded myself with a lot of the stuff that I was doing. And then afterwards, if I look back, then like not everything was that necessary to do. But what I'll say is that take time out for things that you're actually passionate about. Like I think if I hadn't done dance outside of school, like I wouldn't have felt like, just do things that make you happy. Like don't just do them because it'll look good on your university application. Like do things that'll make you happy and that you can actually progress in, and that you're gonna work hard to actually make it meaningful to you. And that's what'll like kind of transition into your university kind of life, because what you've done and you've been really passionate about it, like the skills that you've learned, you're gonna apply them somewhere. Like even if I was dancing, then I learned how to dance with a team, like I choreographed for a team, so then I learned a lot of teamwork and how to work with others, which is really like it's directly applicable. And then when I was president of a club, that demonstrates leadership and things like that. So just try to pick and choose what you want to do. don't jump on every opportunity that comes your way because you won't be able to handle that. But if you can, honestly, kudos to you. But yeah. Another question. Okay. What type of career are you looking for after an undergraduate degree in business? Okay, so I'm still like unsure of what I want to do exactly, but I think I'm interested in doing a law degree after business or going into consulting. So why I wanted to do law was because I've done like a bunch of law like competitions before, and I was just really interested in the idea of making social impact and like kind of getting innocent people justice. So that was why I was interested in law, and I thought that business would be a good route to take before I started my law degree, and also just because I was really generally interested in business. But like now, so that I'm in first year, I've talked to a lot of upper years about what they're going into, and I've learned that there's so much more to business than I didn't know before. Like I didn't know that there was like more industries out there except for like the conventional finance and accounting industries. Like there's this so the consulting industry is something that I'm also very interested in. Essentially, what consultants do, for those of you that don't know, they try to basically help organizations and businesses with their business problems and help them solve it and basically give them strategies to solve that. So I think it's really cool how you get to work with a lot of different industries while being in one consultancy firm, and you get to use all of your business knowledge to solve a problem, which I think is really cool. How many questions do you guys want me to answer?
All right, so actually, we were hoping that you guys could also alternate. So, Angelina, are you okay to take the next couple questions?
Yeah, for sure. Do you have a specific one, or should I just pick off the list?
You can pick off the list.
Okay. Probably one of my favorites is, do you need to have a 90+ average to get into the top business programs? It is quite stressful to balance worthwhile ECs and academics. And yes, I can definitely attest to that as well. Right off the bat, I'd say no, you don't need a 90+ average to get into a business program. You need to have the good balance of academics and extracurriculars, but a good academic standing does not necessarily mean a 98. And when Nick was here, he said that Ivey has rejected a lot of people with a 98 average, and I can say that Queen's Commerce has done the same. So what I mentioned earlier in my presentation was that after you meet the cutoff for Queen's Commerce, so an 87%, you're considered equally with every other applicant who has an 87 average or higher. So I would really say to focus on having important extracurriculars that mean something to you, and don't overwhelm yourself with stuff. So I went into high school with the mindset of I need to do everything and I need to do everything well. And I quickly realized as school started getting busier in grade 10 and 11 that was just not possible. So I decided to focus my time into a few things that I was really interested in. So I've been dancing my entire life. I started, I think, when I was 2, and I've been dancing ever since. So I kept that within my life. I've also always really loved music. So I've always kept, I've done show choir, which is kind of like a glee club. And I've also done concert band. And then one other extracurricular. Oh, and I've also done yearbook all 4 years in high school. And then outside of school, I did one extracurricular. I was, like I mentioned, part of the organization Junior Economic Club of Toronto. So it's kind of like you really have to find the right balance on what works for you. And I think that if you find like 4 to 5 extracurriculars that you are super interested and passionate about, that it won't be extremely difficult to balance that with your academics. So another thing that I just wanted to say on extracurriculars, it's that it's not really about the name. It's not really about like, I was part of this startup that is now currently like taking over Canada. It's more about I was part of this organization, and from this organization I developed XYZ skills. Because they don't really care about the program. They care about you and what you learn from that organization or program that you participated in. So yeah, just kind of a recap. No, you definitely don't need a 90+ average. I think I hit like a 91, and I think that the incoming class average for my year was around like an 89, 90. So yeah, should I answer another question or should I pass it back?
You can take one more question, and then after that, Mahek can take the next one.
Oh, sure. Okay, so what do universities mean by awards and distinctions, and what are some good examples? I think that that's actually a really great question because that was something that I was asking myself when I was filling out my application. So assuming that the application process hasn't changed in the past year for Queens, they ask you to list up to 5 awards or distinctions that you may have. For me, I think it's important to find a balance between things that are relative to the program and things that are relative to you. So I think for my application, I put down, of course, DECA, and I know that DECA is definitely something that everyone's going to put down. So don't necessarily put down that you were top 10 on regional exams because a lot of people do get that award and it's not something that makes you stand out. I was fortunate enough to make it to ICDC in my grade 12 year, so I put that in my application. I also put show choir awards that I've won within my years of high school, and I thought that that would be a really good standing out factor because that's not a program that a lot of schools have. I also put down the I think it was called the Music Director Choice Award or something like that, and it was just things that I thought tied to my interests and passions and showed who I am and showed my commitments. And yeah, I'll just pass it back.
Okay, let's look at the other questions. Okay, what are the employment prospects for the program? What have previous graduates gone on to do? So for Schulich, I know that the industries that graduates go into are quite diverse. I was going to include it in my slides, but then I thought it was going to be way too long, so I didn't include it. But I know a couple of fourth years who have, of course, there's the big 4, obviously, that a lot of people who want to go into accounting and finance go into. Then there's a lot of startups as well that people want to join because they are so new and they want to be part of an organization just from the get-go. So that's something that a lot of people do. Then a lot of the consumer product industries like P&G, a lot of those companies also recruit at Schulich. But for career prospects, it really depends on what you're trying to look into. There's a lot of things that you can do with a business degree because every organization is essentially a business and they're looking for some sort of profit in some way. So the things that you learn definitely can help you in any sort of job that you're looking for. Yeah, but it's quite broad. You can go into almost anything with a business degree. Are we alternating with questions?
Yep. So Angelina, if you could take the next one, that'd be great.
Okay, cool. So do you have any recommendations that I can casually do during the next few years to help determine a direction and credentials for my academic and career path? And this was actually asked by a student in grade 9, which is super impressive because I was not thinking about 4 years ahead when I entered high school. So I think that in grade 9, it's really important to focus on things you're interested in and finding out what you like and what you dislike. And once you find something you like, commit to it. That way you can show when you're applying to university 4 years down the road that when you're passionate about something that you fully commit and dedicate all of your time to it. So I think that's something that's really important. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's any specific courses or things that you can do to make yourself super prepared because we have a bunch of students within our program that have never taken a business course in their life. And it's not necessary for you to have taken a business course in your life. One of my really good friends here, she focused really heavily on STEM throughout all 4 years of her high school. And she actually did exceptionally well in the STEM fields, but she still ended up deciding to come into business, and she's doing just as well as everyone, if not better. So yeah, my recommendation would definitely just be focus and commit to things that you're interested in and passionate in, and learn from that and develop and find interesting life experiences from that are unique to you that you can talk about 4 years down the road. Yeah.
All right. Now let's go back to Mahek with another question.
Okay, I really like this question. What is the best way to learn outside your classes about potential career paths? I think during my high school, like my 4 years in high school, I was really confused and I went back and forth like with a lot of career prospects. Like there was a point in grade 9 where I wanted to be an astronomer and then an engineer and then a lawyer, and like now I'm in a business program. So it's definitely good to learn about a lot of different career paths during high school so you know what you want to do when you're in grade 12, or like at least what kind of program you would want to be in. But the best way to learn, well, there's a lot of opportunities. So obviously joining clubs that are focused on the types of industries you are interested in is definitely one way to start. Even if you're just a general member, if you attend those events and you meet with other people who are in potential industries or careers that you're interested in, just by talking to them and actually talk to them about like what they do on a daily, like on a day-to-day basis. Like sometimes people just hear the names and the titles of different positions or jobs and they're like, oh, that sounds really cool, I would love to do that. But then when you actually talk to a person who's in that role, then you understand what they're doing, and then you might be like, oh, okay, maybe that's not really for me. So I think talking to people and hearing about their experiences is definitely a way to understand like the real life kind of perspective on different jobs and different careers. Like some industries are super stressful, and then you won't know that without actually talking to someone. Another way could be like internships or even volunteering at different organizations. Like a lot of big companies do summer programs for high school students. So I think that's something really cool to check out. Like I never did that during my high school time, but like I feel like that I've heard of people do that, and I think it's a really rewarding experience. You just get to learn more about, like, if you're really passionate about working for a certain company, you get to learn about their culture, about what kind of job prospects are there within a certain company, like what are the timings, what do they do on a day-to-day basis, and you get to network with a lot of different people. So I think those are the main things that you could do. And like talk to your parents. If your parents know people that like are working in the industries you're interested in, that's a really good way to learn more about those careers, and they'd be more than willing to talk to you because obviously you have a connection. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Mahek. And now we're going back to Angelina with the last question for today.
Okay, cool. So with everyone starting their own youth organization in high school, do you think the value of youth organizations have diminished in the eyes of universities? And do you think starting one is becoming less of a standout activity and more of a necessity for high-tier programs? Okay, wow. That's actually a really great question. And this is actually something that wasn't extremely relevant when I was applying to high school. And yeah, so I would say that no, the value doesn't diminish as long as if you decide to start your own nonprofit, that it's a successful nonprofit, and you can say like, and that you can, when you're talking about your nonprofit, you can say that you guys have accomplished something. So it's really easy to say, oh, I started a nonprofit that is teaching youth about financial literacy, and that's what the nonprofit I used to be at did. It's really easy to say that, but it's harder to say I was part of the Junior Economic Club of Toronto, a nonprofit that aims to increase financial literacy within youth, and we did this by hosting economic forums every season. So that would be something that universities would really like. And like, I wouldn't say that that means that you have to start your own. You can definitely join one of the ones that are like the ones that exist, because I would say that within Toronto, I guess not really the market, but the market for high school nonprofits is very saturated. You'll definitely be able to find a nonprofit that fits your passions and your interests. So first look to see if one exists, and if not, start your own. And if you do decide to start your own, make sure that you accomplish something before you talk about it. Yeah, that's kind of my answer to that question.
All right, thank you so much, Angelina. Before we end, we actually noticed that there are a couple more questions in the live chat. So if we could just answer those, and then we can wrap up. Mahek, would you like to take the first one and then Angelina the next?
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just look at the live chat. Do you think doing things like DECA and stuff transfers over to actually studying business in university? Well, from someone who's actually done DECA in high school, I think, okay, I'm not exactly sure if you will remember all of the business knowledge that you crammed in DECA for your multiple choice exams and for your everything. Like, you might not remember all of that, and I don't think it's really necessary for you to remember all that, because not everything is directly applicable. But like the presentation skills, the way to study, the just like all of that stuff, and especially if your like specialization is case based, then just learning how to read a case and like just presenting right away, like time management skills, all of those things are they're really important skills that you need actually for any kind of university program. And other extracurriculars, again, they're really important in the sense that you learn those soft skills that you wouldn't be able to learn just by studying all day every day. Like, you need to be able to branch out, talk to people, work with other people, because that's what you're going to be doing at university and when you actually enter the job market. So I think those things are more applicable than like exactly the knowledge that you're going to get from clubs. But yeah, so I think the soft skills would be more important.
All right, thank you so much. And now Angelina with the last question from live chat.
Okay, so is it better to specialize in one or two areas in terms of extracurriculars, or should you do a variety of activities? So I would say that for most university applications, especially for business, they require you to write around 3 essays. So I would say have around 3 extracurriculars that you're super passionate about, because there's really no point in doing 8 things and spreading yourself so thin that you can't really focus on anything if you're not even going to be able to talk about all of those 8 things, right? So I think what I've mentioned a few times now is commit yourself to like 3 or 4 things that you're super passionate about, and show that universities really like when you tell them that you've been involved with an organization for a super long time. So again, I talked about dance and how I've been dancing for the past like 16, 17 years. And then I talked about how dance allowed me to focus on always trying to be better than I was before instead of comparing myself to others. And I think that, like, I wrote that for my life experience, and I talked about how that was a unique perspective that I would bring to Queen's Commerce, how I always have focused on competing with myself and being better than myself. So I guess the answer is yes, definitely have a focus. I would recommend you probably focus on around 3 to 4 extracurriculars that you can talk about. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
All right, so thank you so much, Angelina, for answering. We noticed that you guys are still sending questions in, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. So so this actually concludes our first webinar of the Propel series. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you all tomorrow at 7 p.m. for our STEM webinar. Tune in to hear from representatives from Waterloo and Harvard. Thank you all once again, and have a good night. Bye.
Bye.